Welcome back to King Kong Month once again. I am the Kaiju no Kami, and today's review is King Kong Lives. After the success of the King Kong remake in 1976, John Guillermin and Dino De Laurentiis decided to go ahead and make a sequel to that movie. The problem was, how do you do a sequel when Kong is dead? Quite simply, actually, you retcon the ending. Unfortunately, it took them 10 years to get this sequel out, and as such, they also decided to have the movie jump 10 years as well because that makes total sense. As such, they wrote it off as Kong was in a coma for 10 years. A coma. For 10 years. After being shot to hell and falling off the World Trade Center, he goes into a coma. A 10-year-long coma. This is gonna be a long movie, isn't it? So after showing us the ending to the remake and jumping 10 years, we are introduced to a doctor from the Atlantic Institute, Amy Franklin, played by Linda Hamilton. Yes, that Linda Hamilton. She must have lost a bet or something. She is there to operate on Kong and replace his heart with a mechanical one, but after being in a coma for 10 years, he needs a blood transfusion. Wait, so what you're saying is that after 9 years, you could have done the transplanting without an issue, but now that he's been comatose for 1 year longer, you can't... You know what? Never mind. Let's just continue. At the same time, an adventurer named Henry Mitchell, played by Brian Kerwin, is in Borneo when he just happens to come across a giant female ape. The natives sedate her, and with a phone call later...
Mr. Mitchell, you'll have to speak up, please. We're having trouble reading you.
Can you hear me now? Hello?
Can you hear me now?
Can you hear me now?
Can you hear me now?
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now, Mr. Mitchell.
Good.
Verizon Wireless. We never stop working for you.
He sells her to the Atlantic Institute, who wants to use her blood to save Kong. Don't they need to make sure she has the same blood type as Kong? Logic. What am I thinking here? The Lady Kong is transported to America via cargo plane, and Mitchell starts yelling at the photographers because they are, get this, dealing with a lady.
Just take it easy. You are dealing with a lady.
After the transfusion, Amy begins to operate on Kong.
Observation! Broken heart won't do! Observation! I'm the doctor for you! How's it look? Good to me! Observation!
Soon, Kong wakes up and is sedated when he tries to break out of the lab, as he can smell the female Kong from a mile away. No, literally.
The female has to be moved now. Kong Senator.
The quarters are a mile apart.
A plan is made to move Lady Kong, but it goes awry as Kong wakes up and breaks into the warehouse, holding her and rescues her. The army forms a perimeter around the forest known as Honeymoon Ridge. Yes, the area the two apes have escaped into is called Honeymoon Ridge. I guess the writers thought it was clever. Amy meets up with Mitchell on the way to Kong's location.
How far are you gonna get in your rent-a-wreck?
Okay, now that was funny. And they outrun the army, who has been told to shoot anyone on sight.
Colonel Nevitt? Yeah. He says he'll shoot the first civilian that crosses his perimeter.
Swell.
Because that is what the army does. Shoot people that are clearly not a 30-foot ape. Once they get away, Amy and Mitchell traverse the treacherous forest with its high-rise bridges over big canyon gaps in order to reach the giant apes. Lady Kong... You know what? This is getting a little bit confusing between saying Kong and Lady Kong, so I think I'm just going to rename her. Lady Kong, your name is now Candy. Mitchell and Amy find the Kongs and she checks on his heart rate, which is stronger than she ever anticipated. They camp out, and because it is the 80s, we see a lead up to them making out with some truly cringe-worthy dialogue.
You sure about this?
We're primates, too.
Oh, just stop. What? This is stupid.
At this point, I have to wonder if they were even trying to make this movie and take it seriously. I mean, I've seen better romance in an elementary school health video. The next morning, the army shows up to ruin the fun, and they capture Candy while Kong plunges into a raging river and hits a rock.
Not even your Kong can survive that.
It doesn't matter if he survived a fall from a skyscraper. He hit a rock.
It was a big rock.
Exactly. Therefore, he is dead because it was a big rock. He is not coming back. Nope, not coming back at all. Months pass and Amy is allowed to visit Candy in the army base where they have her locked up in a missile silo. Amy believes she needs immediate medical attention, but Lieutenant Nevitt throws her out of the facility and tells her she is not allowed to return. To the viewer's bewilderment, Kong is alive and he eats some alligators. The child of those gators vows revenge, joins up with some pirates, and then becomes a king with the determination to kill every gorilla he can.
No one's going to make a monkey out of me. No one gets this diabolical sipping tea. I'm the rightful ruler, anyone can see. No one's going to make a monkey out of me.
Mitchell returns to America, and both he and Amy follow Kong's trail via plane while he is being hunted by some rednecks. Ah, rednecks. Gotta love them. The rednecks blow up the mountain around them to cause an avalanche that entraps Kong.
Alright. Hey, now that's some good liquor, son! Big ugly son bitch.
The frustrated Kong breaks free and gives them all their well-earned deaths. Rednecks taste the intolerance. Kong steps on Amy's device as she traverses through the forest as he heads towards Candy. Mitchell manages to fly them to the army base without them being shot down, where they are able to sneak into the base that night by sheer stupidity while Kong attacks.
Entire battalion up there.
Colonel Levitt, Captain just called
You guys
us.
get
Amy comes to realize that Candy is pregnant and they begin to rescue her, which Kong then finishes. The Kong duo make their way across country only to stop as Candy goes into labor. The army shows up at the barn they are at and a battle commences. Kong is badly injured, but he is able to play a nice quick game of Whack-a-Nevitt. Candy gives birth to the cleanest baby ever seen, and after spending a few moments with his son, Kong dies. The mother and child are returned to Borneo as the movie ends. And that was King Kong Lives. This movie is stupid! Stupid, stupid, stupid! None of it makes any sense! There is no way Kong could have just been in a coma for 10 years and just only needed a blood transfusion after 9 years have passed before he could have been given a mechanical heart. The entire concept just doesn't work. And that is saying something from a movie that is about a giant gorilla. If they have made this movie so that it took place a year or so later, it may have been believable. But 10 years later is just way too much time. Sadly, that is not even the worst aspect of the plot. That comes down to the fact that this movie is just flat out boring. Having a female Kong could have added something new to the mythos, but this is just undistinguished to the point that nothing interesting is ever being done with the Kongs. When they are together, they just sit around and do nothing. When they are separate, they whine as loud as they can until one comes to rescue the other. It is so boring. Amy and Mitchell are just as bad. Mitchell just instantly falls for Amy, and Amy wants nothing to do with him, at least for the first night. The next time we see them, she is suddenly in love with him. It is just forced because none of these characters really share any screen time together to warrant this relationship until they are already in love with one another. They don't have anything in common as she is just a doctor and he is, well, I don't know. We are never told what his job is or why he was in Borneo. He just is. Everyone is just reading their lines instead of acting. The only scene I can actually give some praise to because it does have some atmosphere to it is the one where we see Kong eating the alligators. Watching what he does and then getting to see it from the perspective of a frog is kind of clever. Well, I guess perspective of a frog isn't the right terminology, but I will give the movie its one moment of brilliance. The effects are not even worthy of anything either. The makeup on the Kongs is subpar at best, but at least it is better than it was in the '76 movie. Everything looks so fake or green screened in as if the production crew was just as lazy as the writers. In fact, that is the biggest problem overall. No one seemed to be doing this movie because they wanted to, but because they had to. Outside of one line, the comedy feels forced in as well, making this one of the worst sequels ever made.
You son of a bitch!
Of course, that shouldn't come to any surprise considering the source of its predecessor, but still, had Dara Lantius actually cared about anything but his profit margin, this movie could have been something really unique we haven't seen from Kong in decades. Instead, it comes off as a waste of everyone's time because no one should have to suffer watching this thing. Seriously, do not watch this movie. Do not pass go and collect $100. There is no payoff to the characters, the plot, or anything, making everything irrelevant. This movie is an insult to Cooper's vision as it treats its audience like they are brain-dead morons. Well, that is all the time I am willing to spend on this giant pile of monkey poop. Join me next time as I conclude King Kong Month with King Kong Escapes. Bye.